Hi everyone, this is Hillary Ellers and I'm coming to you from Lightwork Studio. Today I'm very excited about the lesson because it is very personal to me. We're going to be studying intuition, and most of you know that I give readings and do intuitive work with people, and so of course this is a topic that's very close and kind of dear to my heart. I started my work when I was 24, giving readings. I'll be 80 in this April of 2024, so almost 56 years I've been doing this work, the intuitive work. People often ask me, did I know I was psychic? You know, how did I know I was psychic? How did it happen for me? And first I'd like to just say, I had not a clue that I was psychic until I started studying meditation. And in our meditation class, we would go to different people. One day our teacher asked us to do this, to choose someone in the group that we did not know very well, and to quote unquote ask to know something about them, to tune in to them. And I chose a little man in the group that I didn't know, and it was, I suppose, probably early on in these classes, and I had not gotten to know all the people in the group. And I asked him in meditation if I could know something about him, and I perceived a few things, and I felt I told you this story a long time ago, so I hope it won't be boring that it's the second time around, and but it applies to our lesson today. So I tuned into him, and I saw a big letter C, and I felt like that related to a woman that he was connected to. Then I saw him dancing in sort of a ballet style of dance. And lastly, the third thing I was aware of and I saw was the image of a long pointed pair of scissors. And after we did the little exercise, we all went around and told the person we tuned into what we felt or perceived, and I did that. And but we were not supposed to give each other feedback right then. I mean, we could do that later. And after the class, this man came running up to me, and he was so excited. And he said, "How do you know me?" And I said, "I don't know you." He said, "Well, who's been telling you about me?" And I said, "Honest, no one. I really, honestly do not know you and don't know about you." And he couldn't believe what I had said. And he told me that his ex-wife's name was Caroline, and that he was having a terrible time with her. And then he said he used to be a professional dancer, and now he was a hairdresser. Well, I personally, he was excited. I felt like someone had just poured a bucket of cold water over me. Honestly, it scared me to death. And I thought, how did this happen? How did this happen? And because it was three different things, I felt, you know, it's not by chance. It's not just a lucky guess, but I couldn't understand it. So it was really actually disturbing to me. After the class, I sat there in my seat for a few minutes, and I was just thinking about all of it. And our teacher came up to me, and he said, "What's happening, Hillary?" And I said, "You know, I don't know what happened. I don't understand." And he said, "You're just very psychic." And he said, if you wanted to work with this, you could help people with it. And I thought about that, and I didn't give him a yes or a no about that. I thought about it for quite a while, a few days, you know. And I was a little afraid of being treated with prejudice. I was afraid my children would be treated with prejudice if I did readings or learned more about opening up psychically. But I decided that I did want to help people if I could. And I went into a course of study with my teacher, and for a whole year, I studied with him every week. And primarily what we did, he was teaching me how to give readings. And the way we did this is that he led me on or in guided meditations. And I would talk to him while I was going through the guided meditation, and I would tell him what I was experiencing and what I was seeing and all of that. The whole point of that was for me to learn how to tune in, how to go into an altered state, and also how to talk at the same time and not lose that attunement. And so after a year, I started working with people. I had been working with my friends during that year, and anybody who would sit down for 10 or 15 minutes and let me tune into them, I would work with them, you know, just to practice. And finally one day a lady called me, and she wanted me to give her a reading, and I didn't know her. And it was very, very scary to me. And I agreed to do the reading, and then I thought, you know, she was going to pay me something, and I mustn't be wrong about anything. That's so funny to me now to think I even thought like that. Because one of the things about being psychic is that you will sometimes be off in how you interpret what you're picking up on. And if you ever do psychic work, and that's not the whole point of intuition at all, but if you ever do psychic work, you have to be willing to be wrong some of the time. So I discovered my psychic ability, and for 56 years now, I have been working with it, and I still do readings. I feel that over the years, my work has deepened, and my work is not particularly totally about the physical plane. Like, I'm not apt to tell people they drive a red car. I'm not apt to tell people they live at 1213 so-and-so street. I tune more into people's process and their spiritual journey, and the journey of their life, the meaning of their life, the challenges they face. And I talk to them a lot about their personal growth and where they're at on a spiritual level. And of course, not everyone is into that. So luckily for me, people tell their friends, and people who are interested in the type of work I do call me. It isn't necessary to understand intuition for it to happen. It isn't even necessary to understand intuition in order to use it like I do as a career. But if you want to understand it more, you need to look at the brain and at consciousness and at the relationship between brain and consciousness. I think of the brain as primarily a computer that is focused toward the physical dimension and that just helps us hook up to the physical world. It helps us interact with the physical world. And I think of consciousness as something much, much bigger than the brain, much more comprehensive than the brain. Even though people are said to, and I believe this totally, stay conscious after death, I think you are switching then to pure consciousness and not using the brain once your body dies. So there are levels of brain activity and there are levels of consciousness. It's much easier to be aware of your levels of consciousness because they have to do with certain activities that you're involved in. The levels of your brain activity are harder to perceive. Like you could be in alpha, you could be in theta or gamma, and it would be harder to tell what level of vibration your brain is at. The brain activity has to do with levels that are called alpha, and that's your day-to-day working sort of comprehensive brain activity. It tunes you into the physical dimension, and you kind of are just going along with your day-to-day living in alpha. Beta is a little different, and it has to do with the beginning of altered states of consciousness. And then all of the levels of brain activity that I'll be naming are levels of altered states of consciousness, and they deepen as we talk about them. So beta, and then a little deeper into altered states is gamma, G-A-M-M-A, delta after that, and finally theta, T-H-E-T-A. Theta is some of the deepest levels the brain goes to in an unconscious process. When you look at levels of consciousness, we've studied them, and you know there are 7 primary levels of consciousness. Some studies talk about more than that. Some studies may talk about less than that. The Schuster material that I've studied for years really talks about 12 levels of consciousness, but I have simplified that to 7 for our work. There is the physical dimension, the etheric, which is a little bit finer and has to do a lot with your connection to your body and sensation in your body. There is the lower astral, that's the beginning of emotions, and that really has to do with a lot of unresolved, kind of turbulent emotion. Then there is something called the Bridge of Maya. And I'm reviewing this because it's been a long time since we've talked about it. And remember that the Bridge of Maya is a sort of dividing point in which things that are not necessarily reality are on one side of that bridge, and things that are total reality are on the other side. And until you get to the Bridge of Maya, when you are in the physical, the etheric, and the lower astral, things can be different than they appear to be. And that's how people, sadly, fool each other, cheat each other, lie to each other, because in these lower dimensions, things can be misconstrued, misidentified, misunderstood. Then once we cross over into the next dimension that's higher than the lower astral, which is the upper astral, things begin to be only what they truly are. They appear only as they truly are. And the lower astral and upper astral, if you remember, are levels of feeling and emotion. Whereas the lower astral is sort of turbulent, chaotic, unresolved feelings, the upper astral is much more processed, ordered feelings and emotion. Then there is the lower mental and the upper mental levels, and sometimes they're called causal levels, so lower and upper causal. And the lower mental level is very concrete thinking, very, down-to-earth thinking. The upper mental level is much more abstract, philosophic. Then we go on up into the spiritual levels. And each of these levels that we perceive and experience, our brains, while we're living, our physical brains are vibrating at a certain level that relates to these different dimensions. And as I said, it's much easier to tell what level of consciousness you're at, because it's much easier to know that you're either feeling or you're thinking or you're just full of sensation and paying attention to that. And it's much harder to tell just what vibratory level your brain is operating at. Your vibratory level in your brain has a lot to do with the communication between the two major lobes of your brain, the left and right lobe. And just to make this very simple and simplify it, your left lobe of your brain crosses over and is in charge of the right side of your body, vice versa. The right side of your brain crosses over and is in charge of the left side of your body. The left, I always get this confused. That's why I'm trying to be careful. I always say it wrong. It's my dyslexia or something on left and right. But anyway, the left lobe of the brain has to do with very concrete matters, concrete life, concrete thinking. The right side, the right lobe of your brain has much more to do with the creative, the artistic. It has to do also with altered states of consciousness. And again, it's not necessary to understand that in order to be intuitive. But I think if you're like me, I like to understand. I have a huge curiosity about everything. And I can remember when I was younger, I used to wish I could just understand everything. I didn't want much, just let me understand everything. And I think of intuition as our native tongue because it's a base that we operate from. And I believe before there was language, before humans developed language, and certainly before humans developed writing, a written language, they operated from intuition. And intuition was, I feel at one time, the main process of communication, that people would simply intuit each other and intuit situations. Before children learn to read and write, it is said that they are much, much more anchored in their intuitive, creative brains. And once they learn to read and write, they move over and occupy a lot more than of their concrete thinking. Interesting, isn't it? And, you know, there's always stories of children who have make-believe friends and children who see things, see ghosts or see spirits or whatever. And I wonder if they really aren't, and I believe many times they really are seeing things that are real, because they're still anchored a lot in their ability to be in altered states, which helps them pick up on other dimensions. People, like societies of people before they learned to read and write, operated a lot from their creative, intuitive brains. Adults and children who are very daydreaming also are occupied a lot in that intuitive side, that creative side, the alternative side of their brains. And I was certainly a child that was very, very daydreamy. In fact, I think I kind of drove my mom crazy. And she tells a story of when she was alive. She's passed now. But she used to tell a story that she would be trying to get me to get ready for school, and she'd go in my room and I'd be putting on my socks, and she'd come back in 15 minutes and I'd still be putting on my socks. And I was daydreaming, you know, and she said I'd be sitting there with one sock halfway on and halfway off, just kind of looking out into space. It was very hard for me early on in school, and I think it was because I was so daydreaming and I was so in this other world. But remember that all of this is the intuitive. Everyone has it, everyone. It works whether you understand it or not, whether you're even aware of it. Sometimes it's still working, even if you don't recognize it. And it operates unconsciously within you until you begin to learn how to control and direct it. And that does happen also naturally at a certain level of your progress and your growth. There is the third level of initiation. We've talked about initiation. And at that third level of initiation, you begin to balance your feelings and your thinking. And at that point, your intuition begins to come forward much, much more strongly. And then people can learn to direct it by will. We're going to be going into that now in a future lesson, our next lesson. So I hope very much that you'll be tuned in and want to know about it. Don't go away, because in a moment we're going to do a meditation. Take care and thank you. Let's all focus now together. And the very first thing I'd like you to do is to help your body to be comfortable. Just pay attention, check in. Maybe this is the first time all day today that you stop to pay attention to how your body feels, and just imagine you are stepping into your body more completely. Any place in your body that is uncomfortable is simply a place in which energy is somewhat blocked. And as we meditate, that energy can open up and you will be able to feel more comfortable. As you step into your body more completely, in this moment, simply feel how it feels to breathe. Just let yourself feel what it is like to breathe. And in this moment, allow yourself to feel how good it feels to breathe. Every incoming breath is bringing a soothing wave of relaxation through your entire body. Just feel that. Like a wave lapping the beach, gently coming up upon the beach. Feel this breath moving through your entire body. Every outgoing breath is carrying with it all of the tension, all of the stress of this day, all out and away from you. Feel your muscles growing longer as you relax. Feel whatever you are sitting on or laying on, supporting your body. And you can let go. Every outgoing breath is carrying with it all of the tension of the day, all out and away from you. As the incoming breath brings a soothing wave of relaxation through your entire body. And when you have relaxed as much as you think you can, find yourself relaxing even more. Relaxing even deeper. From this very, very relaxed place, you are in tune and connected with very deep parts of yourself. Imagine that you are opening up a channel through which your intuition can flow. You are opening up a connecting point. And you will be more and more aware of your intuition. Just allow your intuition to bring you anything you need. If it is information, let yourself receive that. If it is pure energy, take that in. And give your intuition your thanks, your gratitude. Express your appreciation. Just let yourself experience that warm, loving connection you have. with your inner guidance and wisdom. Just feel it and know that it is growing. Imagine that your intuition, your inner guidance and wisdom is moving all of the way through you, from the top of your head, all of the way down into your toes. You are receiving your inner guidance. You are making that pathway. And now very gradually begin to return to your surface level of consciousness and bring with you this awareness of connection with your intuition. Just know that it is stronger. Breathe deeply and take in all that has occurred and bring it with you as you return. As you return, allow yourself once again to find yourself safely anchored in your physical body. As you are returned, begin to move. Let yourself stretch. Rub your hands together. Rub your face or your legs. When you're ready, open your eyes. Just open your eyes when you've returned. Write about your experience in your journal, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. All blessings to you. Bye-bye.